Hello, acwano here, and we are back with another tier list. You guys loved both my previous tier lists about this game, so we're back with a third one, and it is our second weapon tier list. This time we're tackling Lune. So Lune is a character I have a lot of experience with because I've played her the entire time, and so I think I'm gonna get more of them right than last time. The last time I got like a couple weapons wrong, not too many. Like I think there's two weapons a verse I misunderstood, but thank you guys in the comments for letting me know. And I'm always here to learn. So even if you guys argue with me in the comments, if you're generally like teaching me something, bringing me like arguments that are like reasonable, I'm like, you know what? Why not? It's fine to disagree with me as long as you're respectful. So let me know in the comments if you disagree about anything I say in this tier list. Anyways, let's just explain the rules. So, like last time, I'm gonna focus on the passives. The passives are gonna be my priority, but I'm also gonna look at the scalings, the two status scales with, and obviously the power. But the power is not as important unless it's like very low, then it's gonna be a factor. But that's gonna like maybe put it like one tier lower. Now, something I need to explain multiple times. That's also the reason why my character tier list is a bit different, is because I look at things depending on their role. So for example, if a healing weapon, like a support weapon, and a DPS weapon, I can't really compare them. So for example, a healing weapon might be technically worse than a DPS weapon because DPS Lune is technically better than healer Lune in the late game because you don't really need that much healing in the late game. But since among the healing weapons, that healing weapon is the best, it can be higher. It can be higher rated just because it is the best at what it does. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind when you look at my tier list. So without further ado, let's start the tiering. And keep in mind that Lune is good at doing three things, and three things only, pretty much. She's good at nuking, mainly with Elemental Genesis. She's good at healing and buffing because she has the biggest AoE healing, and coupling that AoE healing with the Pictos, you can get a 105% HP heal plus 3 buffs. So she's the best healer. And the third thing she's good to do, basically using her gradient attack, which also does a lot of damage. So there's 3 ways to play Lune: Gradient, Elemental Genesis, or well, Mayhem early game, then Elemental Genesis, or you play her as a healer. Those are the 3, or healer buffer. Those are the 3 things Lune does. So if a weapon doesn't really work with those 3 playstyles, unfortunately, it is a bit worse. Let's start with the elemental weapons. So as you know, Lune is an elemental mage centered at around 4 elements, the elements of earth, ice, fire, and lightning. And therefore, she has one weapon that kind of works very similar to the others, but for one of these elements. And those are the weapons we're going to start with. I call them the elemental weapons. So it is Lithelim for fire, then you have Diminurim for lightning, Colim, and Painerim. So let's look at Lithelim first. Lithelim, I would say, is the best out of the 4 first of all, because she has agility scaling. Second of all, because you get it very, very early into the game. And third of all, because burn is very good. The other elements do not actually put a status. This one, fire skills put burn. And burn is very good because of burn affinity, which gives out damage boost to everyone who has it, if the enemy has burn. Because of critical burn, which is a 25% crit rate to everyone that has it, if the enemy is burnt. So fire is legit just the best element. And Lithelim is very good because it makes your wildfire immolation cheaper, which makes it very, very good in the early game. Lithelim is honestly one of the best weapons for Lune in Act 1, and obviously it falls off very hard later, but just because of that, it is a solid B tier. Now, let's look at Diminurim, Colim. You know what, let's do them one by one. This one is pretty much the same thing. You kind of create a one-trick pony Lune, which can work, but it's just not good enough to justify using them. So Lithelim escapes. I'm just gonna spoil it right now. It escapes the tier list, the C tier, barely. Which one is the other one? Panerim. It escapes the C tier barely because of the things I told you guys earlier. The reason why burn is a lot better, but these weapons don't have what burn don't have the advantages that fire build has. They just do they don't do much. So lightning skills cost 1 less AP, okay. 20% increased lightning damage skills, okay. Starts ball with 1 fire send. See, all of these things are good. The problem is, a full lightning Lune build is not that good compared to the other ways to nuke with Elemental Genesis, Mayhem, her gradient attack. Like, this would only be like, it's not good enough, you know what I mean? Same thing with Panerim, same thing with Kralim. Now, there's an argument for Panerim to be higher because Earth skills can synergize with a break build, but if you're doing a break build, you would just use the break weapon, which we'll talk about later. So yeah, that's it for the elemental weapons. They're all C tier, except Lithelim, who is B tier because it's a very, very good early game weapon. Let's get to the next ones. Now, let's talk two very cool weapons that I like to call the free aim shot weapons because they're very, very similar, so that's why I'm putting them together. Trebuchem and Troubadim. So both of these weapons can give you stains for every single free aim shot. And a lot of you guys probably use Trebuchem in Act 1 and 2 because that's very good. You shoot 4 times, you use Mayhem instantly, so in one turn you can use Mayhem if you have like 7 AP. And there's many ways to like get 7 AP like that. And the thing is that it regenerates stains every time, it regenerates AP every time stains are consumed. So you shoot 4 times, you use Mayhem, and then you get the cost back. Well, you get more. You get 4 AP back when you use Mayhem. So it's very, very good. And Troubadim, the problem is that even though it has the same thing, it has the generate random stain on free aim shots. There's two reasons why it is worse than Trebuchem. First of all, the generate random stain passive is on level 20, not level 4, which means you'll get this one. You get this passive in Act 3 or the end of Act 2, which at that point it doesn't become that worth it anymore. And you don't get the AP every time you use stains. Instead, you get increased free aim damage, which you don't really care, because even if these weapons are free aim damage, you're not going for free aim damage build, because Lune doesn't synergize with that. You're going for a Mayhem build. So Troubadim, unfortunately, is kind of mid. Trebuchem is obviously our first A tier weapon. It's very, very solid weapon. Now, yes, it falls off really hard late game, but just because of how good it is early game before the damage cap, it's just impossible for me to put it any lower because it's just too good in the early game. And unfortunately, Troubadim will have to go in the low B tier. There's an argument for putting it in C tier because of how late you get that passive, but it is like a free aim shot weapon, so it has its niche. So I think it's enough for it to be B tier. But honestly, like, there's an argument for putting it in C tier. But I'll put it here for now. So let's move on. Okay, now we're simply gonna put Lunarim in F tier. You know, like the usual. There's probably the only F tier weapons for every character is gonna be just this weapon. Now, well. For the Versa one, there was one exception. That weapon is dog shit, so go watch that video if you want to figure out. But for Lune and us, I think for most characters, there's no F tier weapon except this one, because it obviously has no passives. But let's talk about one weapon that I think is kind of bad, and that's Lithelim. So, Lithelim, first of all, only has 1 scaling, which automatically is kind of bad. And let's talk about the passives. 50% chance to generate a dark stain when consuming stains. So, first of all, not reliable. We have to coin flip every time. Deal 50% more damage with skills per active dark stain. So, when you consume a stain, you generate dark stains, and you get a 50%. So, let's say you have 2 dark stains, you get more damage with your skills. And then plus 1 IP on consuming a light stain. That's solid, nothing crazy, but it's good. Base attack can consume 1 dark stain to deal 200% more damage. So, here is the problem. The first passive is it doesn't make sense this weapon just kind of beats the purpose of the dark stains. The dark stains cannot be consumed like light stains unless you have the other weapon, which makes the other weapon very good. We'll talk about that one later. But so these dark stains are basically just taking up slots, and the more you have of them, the more you do damage. The problem, Lune's damage comes from consuming stains. Mayhem uses all your stains. Elemental Genesis uses your 4 stains if they're different. So the best way to do damage with her is to consume stains. But if you have these dark stains consuming slots, you cannot use them, and therefore it's kind of bad. Now, yes, it's good if you use a basic attack damage, which is why the 4th passive is very good. But the 4th passive is the only thing preventing this weapon from the F tier. If you can't consume the dark stains, it's not as good. Now, yes, for a basic attack build, this is very good. But the reason why I'm putting it in D tier, it's because I have to compare it to other DPS weapons, and a basic attack weapon on Lune is probably one of the worst things you can do. Even if you want to go for a support debuffing Lune with basic attack, when you know, like exposing attack and stuff like that, you're not gonna choose Lithelim. So, yes, unfortunately, this weapon is not good. But I might be missing something, so let me know in the comments if you use Lithelim a lot, and let me know how you used it. Hey, now let's talk about our burn weapons. So if you're doing a burn build, which honestly is very good, I recommend, well, the first 2 party members are obviously going to be Mael and Verso, because they synergize a lot of fire, especially Mael, and Verso has one of the best burn weapons in the game. But the 3rd party member is going to be Lune. Some people, you know, ask me about that, and that's my answer. And why? It's because she has access to burn weapons herself and burn skills, obviously. Now, the first one is this weapon. And at first, I was like, you know, Kralim, obviously, you know, because in English, this would be pronounced Kralim. The thing is, she has another weapon called Kralim, and I'm like, that's stupid. Why would you have 2 weapons called Kralim? That makes no sense. Then I realized this is a French name, game, so this probably isn't Kralim. This is probably Choralim. So we're gonna call it Choralim. So what about Choralim? Choralim, I've seen people say this is the best burn weapon, and either I'm missing something or they're tripping, because this weapon is a mix of 2 things you don't watch on a burn weapon. So remember when I talked about Verso's weapons? If you guys watched the video, if you didn't watch my Verso weapon tier list, go watch it. But I talked about a weapon that boosted burn damage, but didn't have good application. And I'm like, it's kind of a bummer, because it's good for boosting burn damage, but it doesn't help you apply it. And this weapon is kind of weird, because its burn application is very bad, and it doesn't boost burn damage. The only thing it does is it gives you 100% crit chance, and it gives you 100% damage boost after 5 turns if you don't get hit, which is very good, by the way. But the thing is, it is just not a burn weapon. And if you're going for damage, there's a lot better weapons to do damage with, because they help you proc Elemental Genesis or Mayhem or your Gradient attack. So it's just not a good weapon, in my opinion. I think just because of the sheer amount of damage buff and the guaranteed crit, I think it cannot be lower than C. Actually, there's an argument for it being B tier, because of its passives are like very good, right? Its passives are just very good. It's just a bit of a bummer because it's not much of a burn weapon. Now, the other weapon, on the other hand, not only does it give you 2 burn per basic attack, it gives you 30% increased burn damage per fire stain. And then, well, the base attack apply 2 burn per fire stain, and then you generate 1 fire stain at the beginning of each turn. This is crazy, because let's look at the sequence. You have Cheater, you have 2 turns. The first turn, you use Immolation, right? Or you use Wildfire, one of the 2. First of all, when you start your turn, you get a free fire stain. Then Immolation, you get 1 free fire stain. And then, when the second turn starts of Cheater, you have a total of 3 fire stains. So that means you have a 90% increased burn damage, and that means your basic attack apply 6 burn. With combo attack, you basic attack 4 times, which means 24 burns. Now it's less than Verso, but it's a shit ton. This is a lot with just basic attacking. So very, very good. Just for that. Now it's not as good as Corpiso for Verso, so it's not S tier, but it is a very, very good burn weapon, so we're gonna put it in A tier. And that's it for the burn weapons. Now, remember how we talked about Lithelim and the fact that Dark Stains kind of like fucked you up because they took space? Well, let's talk about a weapon that makes this, that make dark stains just broken. And it's Scaverim. So the thing about Scaverim is that it gives you 50% chance to generate a dark stain when consuming any stain. Now, yes, this makes it not as reliable because it's a coin flip, but you deal 50% more damage with skills per active dark stains, and then base attack can consume 1 dark stain to deal 200% more damage, which is very similar to this, right? But this time, with 4 active dark stains, any skill can consume them to deal 300% more damage. So this is very good because, like I told you at the beginning of the video, Lune has 2 ways to nuke with her skills: Mayhem in the early mid game and Elemental Genesis in the late game. And Elemental Genesis takes 4 stains. This is just perfect. It has agility scaling. It gives you basically 300% more damage, means that Elemental Genesis will do quadruple damage. Crazy. It's just crazy. Now, yes, it would take a bit of time to generate dark stains, and so, but you do get quadruple damage. So, for example, usually setting up Elemental Genesis with other things take at most 1 turn, minimum 1 turn. If this takes you 2 or 3 turns, it's already worth it. So Scaverim, very, very good. It is going to be our first S tier weapon. Let's move on. Now, let's talk about all the healing weapons that Lune has as an option. So if you're using Healer Lune, which is, you know, it's good, especially if you're playing on normal difficulty, because, you know, not everyone is playing on expert. But if you're playing on normal difficulty, Lune is probably one of the best characters. And she has 3 options as a healer. I mean, you know, even Act 3 healing can be good. So, let's talk about Lithelim, Putyrim, and Braselim. First of all, Braselim and Lithelim have one passive in common, that is replay instantly on consuming stains with healing skills. The problem with this one is that in Act 3, or whenever you manage to beat Sprong, it kind of becomes dog shit, because there's a cap at how many replay effects you can get. It's capped at only 1. So when you get Cheater, the pick that gives you a replay every time, this passive does nothing. So I think these 2 are worse than Putyrim because of that. Now, which one is better than the other? Now, Braselim gives you makes healing skills cost 1 less. Lithelim makes healing skills generate 1 additional light stain. Now, the base healing skill, the one that single targets, uses, if you have 2 light stains, you can cast it for free. So Lithelim basically means that every time you use that healing skill generates 1 light stain. With this one, it would generate 2. So you can basically heal infinitely without using AP. This is insanely good, especially since this is the level 4 passive, and you can basically use this in Act 1 and 2 and just heal infinitely without using AP. I think just because of that, it is better. It gives you 1 ice stain at the beginning of each turn, and obviously the replay. This one gives you earth stains, which are arguably better because you can use them to cast a healing skill, the single target healing skill for free, but this one gives you light stains anyways. So I would put Lithelim in B tier for healing, and what's the name of the other one? Braselim, my friend Braselim, you are going in the C tier. Now, like I said earlier in the video, I'm tiering these ones kind of like separately as the healing weapons. So one is C tier, one is B tier. That doesn't mean like that the Lithelim is better than Kralim, but it's just as a healing weapon, it's the B tier healing weapon. And Putyrim is gonna go in the A tier as the best healing weapon in my opinion. But let's look at it more in depth. So healing skills generate 1 additional light stain. So like this one, it's very, 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 very good, because every time you use a healing skill, you're gonna get a free light stain, which you can use for any skill. And then when you consume a light stain, you apply slow for free. And speed manipulation is one of the best things in a turn-based game with a timeline. That's the reason why CL is broken, because turn manipulation is very good. Slow is the best debuff. Well, slow and defenseless are the best debuffs, I would say. Base attack generates a light stain. This is also very good if you don't have, because usually as a healer Lune, especially in the early game, well, this is level 20, so it's not really early game, but when you want to generate AP, you wanna basic attack, or as a healer, you're gonna basic attack even if you have AP, because sometimes you don't have any healing to do. So what you want to do is you want to debuff the enemy with the exposing attack plus greater defenseless to put a 40% damage boost to your entire team. So basic attacking as a healer is something you do, so this weapon actually makes sense. It's good to see a weapon that is good, that is well balanced. This is the healer weapon, and it has an S agility scaling, so we love to see it. But it's not quite enough to be S, because like I said, healer Lune is not really S tier potential. It's good, but you know, if you want to bring Lune to the S tier, you want to have a weapon that's very good with elemental genesis or its gradient attack. So let's go to the next weapon. Now, let's talk about two weapons that improve your survivability. English is hard. It is not my first language. And let's talk about Elerim and Snowim. So, Snowim is a very quirky weapon. Very, very unique. So I like it. And it's also a snowflake, which is, you know, the logo of my channel. So, freeze self when falling below 30% health. Prevent the next instance of damage while frozen. This is very good because the frozen state usually makes you take damage when someone hits you when you're frozen, but it breaks the freeze. This time, no. So you insta-freeze. If you ever played Overwatch, this is basically just makes you May. So if you take damage, if you fall below 30% health, you become ice, and then you tank the next hit. And then when your turn starts, the frozen is automatically removed, and you get 60% health. If you have the efficient heal Picto, you're gonna get back to full health. And then if you have the Pictos that give you buffs when you get healed, then when you heal, that means that every time you come back for the frozen state, you get full healed with 3 buffs. Very, very good. Now the problem is that the thing that prevents this weapon from being, you know, A tier is the fact that it doesn't do much more. It gives you 2 ice stains and 3 AP. It's not bad, but like, and it only prevents 1 instance of damage after that. So it's not too reliable. I don't think it's enough to be A tier, but it's a, you know, it's a solid choice for some. I think it could be clutch for some fights. Like, this is very, very fight dependent if the combo doesn't have more than 2 hits or maybe 3. So let's be careful with that. Now let's talk about the other one, Elerim. Elerim is very good because it applies shield, and one thing you should know about Expedition 33 is that anything that synergizes with shields is good. Shields are broken, they block 1 instance of damage, which is any instance of damage, which is very, very good, and they synergize with a Picto called Shield Affinity, which gives you insane damage boost. I think it's like 10% for every shield, but you know, I'll correct it post in editing if it's wrong, but it doesn't matter how much. Shield Affinity is very, very good, and you can stack shields. Now, it's 1 shield per Earth Stain, but doesn't mean that you always get 1 shield per 1 shield. No, no, no. If you use a skill that consumes more than 1 Earth Stain, you get more than 1 shield. So insanely good. It has also vitality, defense scaling, so you become a giga tank. And, you know, like I said, also basic attack can generate Earth Stains. So this is also it gives you an easy way to generate Earth Stains too. And at the same time, you can apply defenseless with your basic attack. So you become like a tank support, which is honestly a very, very good build. So I think Elerim, just because it synergizes with the shields, and shields are kind of broken, I think it's enough to make this at the top of A tier. Like, look, I'll say it as many times as needed. Shields are very good. Anything that synergizes with shield is good. Let's move on. Now, let's talk about the 2 weapons that Lune has access to if you want to do a gradient build. Now, one of them is okay, the other one is broken. Now, the one of this is okay because it's not really a gradient weapon, it just has a gradient synergy, which is why I'm putting it in the same segment as the other gradient weapon. It is called Braselim. Braselim gives you 30% increased critical chance for Ice Stain. This is kind of weird because this has a S luck scaling, so like, if you have an S luck scaling, at some point you're gonna get 100% critical rates with this and pick those anyways, and so it's like kind of weird to give you 30% increased critical chance with Ice Stains in a passive, because it kind of becomes useless at some point, but it can help you reach 100% if you have no Picto that scales with critical rate, so it could be good. Now, the one that's very interesting is the plus 5% chance with a gradient charge on critical hits. This is very, very good because every time you crit, plus 5%. So, for example, if you have a 100% crit rate, you can just shoot, shoot all your AP, and then just basic attack with combo attack 4 times to crit 4 times. It's like you can get a max of like, you can get 15. You can get like 100% gradient charge on 1 turn because of that. So this is a very, very good weapon to recharge gradient. So if you're using, for example, a gommage build with Mael, this is a very, very good way to help Mael build that gommage earlier in the game. And for example, in the beginning of Act 3, before you have broken ways to charge it, broken pictos, this is a very, very good way. And just because of that, I think this is enough to be in the A tier, because gradient charge can be easily abusable. But it is not as good as the other weapon called Saperim. Now the thing about Saperim is that it gives you a gradient, using gradient attack generates 1 light stain. So, and then when a fire stain is generated, a lightning stain is also generated. So this is very good, just because of the skills you're going to use to get there. But the really, really good thing, and the thing that makes this weapon very good in my opinion, is the last one. Gradient attacks and gradient counters deal 50% more damage. So if you want to go for a gradient build, this is definitely the weapon. It doesn't really help you generate gradient, but you have so many pictos to help you with that, that honestly, this is honestly enough for me to put it in, I don't know if it's enough for S tier, honestly, but I think it's enough for like the top of A tier. I think, like, I want to put it in S tier because Skybreak can be very good, but like when I compare it to Scaverim and the other weapons, it's honestly not quite good enough. So I think we're gonna put both these weapons in A tier, but one is a bit higher than the other in my opinion. Now, it depends on the roles. So, you know, for some of you in the comments, you might think Braselim is a lot better, and that's if you're using Lune as someone to build gradient for someone else. But if you want to do damage with Skybreaker, Saperim is very good. Now we have 4 weapons left. Let's go to the next one. Now you're starting to notice that Lune has a lot of good weapons. Now Verso was like C, D heavy and like 1 or 2 A's and a couple S's. Lune has a lot of B and A tier weapons. She doesn't have that many bad weapons. So, and we're gonna add one more to the A tier because this weapon can be very solid because it synergizes with breaking. Breaking is one of the strongest. Break builds are some of the strongest in the game because breaking is very good. You basically just waste one of the enemy turns. Now, 30% increased break damage per earth stains, and you know that the skills that synergize with break consume earth stains, you know, the ones that Lune has, and you get 9 AP on breaking an enemy, which is also very, very fantastic, and generate 1 earth stain at the beginning of each turn. So you know what, if you combine this with the first passive, it makes everything just synergize together, and that's, you know, the weapons that like make sense like that, I just love them. It's just beautiful, perfect design. It also has an S agility scaling, so if you want to go for break builds, break composition in your party, you can go for like Verso, Lune, Monoko. Very, very good break team. And I would put Chapelim, just because it synergizes with break, I would put it in A tier. So, you know, it's the same thing with, you know, when I said Elerim is A tier because it synergizes with shields. Well, it's the same thing with Chapelim. Chapelim is A tier because it synergizes. Also, Trebuchem is probably a bit lower than that because it's mostly an early game weapon. But yeah, Chapelim, because it synergizes with break, it is A tier. Let's move on. Now we have 3 weapons left to tier, and before we get to the broken ones, let's talk about the dogshit one. So Colim. Now, except the fact that it looks very cool, it doesn't. It's not too good in my opinion. So it does have an agility scaling, even though it's not the asset, but it's still pretty good. Now the problem is, it starts with the first one: 50% chance to generate a light stains when consuming stains. This is good, but like I said, not reliable. Now, unlike Scaverim, which you know, makes up for it by having a very broken last passive, the last passive is 20% increased damage with skills per active light stains, which is pretty much like the same as other weapons do, but a lot worse. So if you have 4 light stain, you will get an 80% damage boost, which is okay, but it's not too good, and then it gives you +1 AP. So the problem with this is that it doesn't actually help you generate light stains that well, except with the coin flip. So this one can be insanely good if you are lucky, but for me, just because of the 50%, it just knocks it down a tier. Like, if I would put it like at B tier, if it said like, oh, if it was get a light stain every turn, it would be like A tier for sure. Or like get light stain when consuming stains, it would be A tier. Yeah, for sure. But because of the 50%, and it's only when you consume, it's because you have to generate stains and then consume stains, and then to get light stains and then to get the boost. You know what I mean? It's a bit of a roundabout way to do things, and even though it's not that bad, bottom of B tier might be too generous. I think I'm gonna have to drop it to the top of C tier because these 5 weapons are low-key, it's not better, but they have their niche. Like, I wouldn't say Snowim is better, but it has its niche. Same thing with Lithelim, same thing with Kralim. This one is just not reliable, and this is just a personal thing. I'm someone who doesn't like unreliable things. I'm someone who never clicks 80% accurate move in Pokemon. I'm just that kind of guy. I don't like unreliable things. Having to coin flip every time is just not good, in my opinion, if you don't have something to come up for it. Like, Scaverim has a coin flip, but it gives you 300% more damage when you Elemental Genesis with the Dark Stain. So it's a very good trade-off, you know what I mean? So yeah, let's move on to our last 2 weapons. Now, it's finally time to talk about the top dogs of the Lune weapon, the ones that are going to join Scaverim in the S tier. I am talking about Kralim and Betelim. Yup, they are both S tier. Now, why are they S tier? Now, first of all, you need to know that these weapons are extremely similar, and this is why I kept them for last, because they do the same thing, well, to a certain extent. So, not only do they have the exact same stat scaling, but 2 of their skills of their passives are the exact same. So, at level 10, on turn start, if no stains, generate 2 random stains. And the level 21 is the same, +1 AP when stains are consumed. So it's kind of the same with Trebushim. When you get all your 4 stains, use them on Mayhem, you get all the AP back. This is kind of the same, but this time it synergizes very well with Elemental Genesis, which is the best skill that Lune has to nuke, which is why they're S tier, because they synergize with her best ability. Why? Because you start the battle, you have no stains, so you generate 2 stains. And then depending on what stains you generate, you can adapt and use the skill that gives you 2 stains that you don't have, and then bada bing, bada boom, the next turn, because you have cheater obviously, on your second turn, you use Elemental Genesis. So, now the question is, those 2 skills alone would be enough to make them S tier, but which one is better? Now, to answer this question, we need to understand 2 things. First of all, how does the first passive of Kralim works? Casting a skill increases the skill damage of all other elements by 20%, resets when casting a skill of the previous element. Now, what you need to know is that Lune's Elemental Genesis does not do elemental damage randomly. It does it in a specific order, and it's never the same element twice, at least from... I'm pretty sure about that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm like 95% sure that it's never the same element twice, which is why this weapon is very good, because even though you're casting one skill, the different elements, like, this is not explained very well. It's not when you cast a skill, when you do damage with a certain element, which it's like how that's how it's programmed, because usually every skill does damage of one element, which is why this description would be accurate for like most of your playthrough. But when you get Elemental Genesis, that's when it becomes a bit weird, because it just works. Every time an Elemental Genesis drops, it would increase the damage of all the other elemental damage by 20%, and it wouldn't reset. And the thing is, this has no cap. This has no cap. So the damage you can reach with Kralim is crazy. And in exchange, what Betelim has to give you is a 20% damage when you consume stains, but it stacks up to 5 times, so it has a cap, unfortunately. But most of the time you're not gonna like the fight is not gonna last too long for Kralim to be that much better than Betelim. So that's why they're both S tier. Now the big problem I have with Betelim, and I've seen people rank it higher, but I don't understand. So let me know in the comments if you know what I'm missing. But in my opinion, it's not as good as Kralim. Why? Because it requires you to consume stains. And with the thing you want to do with the second passive on turn start, if those stains, two random stains are generated, what you want to do is, for example, if you get any stain that is not double ice, double light, or ice light, like any other combination of the other elements, you would always use wildfire to then give you a light and fire stain, which would complete the quadrio, and then bam, elemental genesis. You don't actually want to consume stains, because you start with 2 stains, and then you want to use a skill that gives you 2 stains to then have 4 stains. You don't want to consume stains most of the time. So this actually is not that good. Now, you can consume stains to get elemental genesis, but that would make it so it lasts you longer. Like, it takes you longer to generate, to get an elemental genesis setup. So it's either you don't use this passive, or you use it, but your DPS gets lower because it takes you longer to get elemental genesis. You know what I mean? And then one other thing I want to specify is that elemental trick, which is one thing you can use if you get like a bad setup of random stains. You can just use elemental trick to give you all the stains, because it would erase the 2 you had. And then elemental trick, or you guessed it right, it works with the first passive of Kralim. So what I notice is that the damage of Kralim is better. Now, if I'm wrong about the passive of Kralim and then it doesn't work as well as I'm saying, it doesn't matter, because they would mean that these 2 weapons are the same, because both of their first passives are not that good. But I am fairly certain that Kralim is just very much better than Betelim. But Betelim's second and third passes are enough, just alone are enough for it to be an S tier, because of how well it synergizes with elemental genesis. And that's it for the Lune weapon tier list. Like you can see here, it is very top heavy. Lune has a lot of weapon options. You can do a lot of different builds: burn builds, basic attack build, break build, gradient build, elemental genesis build, stuff like that. Any elemental, and she can specialize in any element. Very, very good and versatile character. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this tier list. Again, there might be a couple weapons I misunderstood, so I'm always grateful if you guys can correct me. But I won't always agree. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not too sure. But there's always 1 or 2 weapons I'm wrong. I can't be right about everything. You know what I mean? I'm human. So, and the game is also quite recent. So I'll be happy to talk with you guys in the comments like we did on the Versa weapon. And again, if you watch this video till the end, make sure to subscribe and like the video. And if you haven't watched the Versa weapon tier list or the character tier list, and if you're interested, go check them out. Was acwano. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.